Hello and welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Concept Show, exclusive to the PAUK radio network. I'm your host, Paul Rook, as always, and we are joined by Kerry Greenaway. Hello, Kerry.
Hello, darling.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you?
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I'm enjoying my Sunday off, and it's Valentine's Day as well.
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah. It was, indeed.
See, dedication to the cause.
Oh, I've been, huge workload, that's all I can say. I just forgot the last couple of days. That's the excuse I'm going with.
It does all kind of merge into one at the moment, doesn't it?
They do, absolutely. Yeah, so Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Valentine's Day, Happy Easter.
Yeah, that's it. Go for them all. Happy holidays. I think that covers everything, though, really, doesn't it?
I think it pretty much does, yeah. It does get like that, though, at the moment, isn't it? It's like, I mean, I know for you, you're working, but you're still working from home, so it's still like a Groundhog Day, isn't it?
It is, very much so, and it's Thanksgiving tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to dinner.
Anyway, should we move on with the show?
I think so, yeah. We've exhausted that line of funness, I suppose. Yeah, go for it. Okay, so what are we talking about this week?
Well, we had a bit of a row on the show. I say a row. We had a disagreement. Right. No, I actually proved you wrong on the show.
No, I'm always right.
This led us down into the rabbit hole of Harry Potter. And actually, when we started looking at that, and, you know, we started off very trivial, you know, we were laughing and joking around it and stuff. But there are a lot of concepts within the Harry Potter franchise that are actually rooted in folklore, mythology, Wicca, you know, all those kind of topics. So we thought we'd have a little look at what kind of Harry Potter taught us and where it went wrong or where it went right, and how people apply things like that in real life. So that's what we're going down. This is the route we're going
down. You might be laughing, but I'll tell you, there's some really good stuff in the whole history of everything that was used in the book.
I don't disagree. I think there was a lot more than people realised.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
In the book. And I think sometimes when, you know, we talk about modern day witchcraft, or more modern day paganism, kind of new agey kind of workings, people don't realise how, I mean, we've talked about like the history of witchcraft before in regards to there is no set lineage of it. But there are so many concepts and so many different areas that come into this, and the tools we use and why we use them and stuff like that. So we're going through a few of these concepts with you and some of the historical characters and all sorts of weird and wonderful avenues we're going to take you down on this particular show of this one, to give you sort of like a bit of an overview of the knowledge that's out there. And you don't have to look that far, really. And it covers, like, you know, when you look at the books, and it's the ultimate, isn't it? Who doesn't want an owl? I'd love an owl to come and say, I've been enrolled into Hogwarts. I know I'm old. I probably could be a teacher at Hogwarts. But I would love it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't think I'd go with an owl, though.
Well, they came and give you an envelope to say that you've been got in.
Oh, yeah, no, the owls are like the post office workers, aren't they?
Yeah.
But, you know, as you could go in with whatever familiar that you wanted to, couldn't you, really? Because I think, was it Hermione Granger had a cat, Ron had a rat.
Oh, yeah, that's your familiar. But what I'm saying is, like, just to get that invite into acknowledgement that there is another world out there. It's almost like, you know, in Harry Potter, there's the two worlds run parallel. The Muggles, yeah, and then the magical world. Yeah. And they run parallel.
And the mudbloods that go between two.
That's a non-witch-born witch.
Yeah, but they're still going between the two, aren't they?
Yeah, mixed heritage, but they've got talent in that way. But the thing with magic in normal day, like everyday use, is it is accessible to people. You can use, and I'm going to air quote, magic per se, because we do. We put intention out there. we talk about manifestation. You only have to look at like the book The Secret, how well that sold, to manifest things you want in your life. And that's magic, basically. That's about, power of the mind, intention, putting it out to the universe. Very famous story with Noel
Yeah.
Edmonds, who used to be massive on UK TV, disappeared from our channels. Didn't see him. He sort of ended up retiring. And then he wanted to get back on television. And he says he went into the garden, wrote, "I want to be back on television," on a note, and then set fire to it and sent it off to the universe. And the next thing he knows, he's got in touch with, and they wanted him to host a new show on Channel 4, I think it was, called What's in the Box. And he got what he wanted. Massive hit that was. And he says it's all down to
Yeah.
power of the universe and putting your intentions out there. A lot of
Yeah.
that is not having attachment to the outcome as well. So, everyone goes, "Oh, I'm invested in this manifestation." Yes, you invest at the point of manifestation, but once you've done that, you have to release it and not have attachment to the outcome. And that's the bit most people kind of
Absolutely.
get
And
wrong.
then when that television show finished, pretty much so was he. So he ended up on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Yeah, but he's like,
And then he ain't been seen since. Maybe he's
no,
still walking around the jungle looking for his way out.
maybe he is. But you say that, but for somebody who wanted, that's pretty damn good manifesting, right? What he did with that opportunity or where that went afterwards doesn't change the fact that he
Yeah.
manifested that initial opportunity for himself.
Yeah, well, there is
It
that, but it
worked.
could also be coincidence.
Could be.
Yeah.
But we've looked at, when we've talked to various people who work with occult, who work with magic, who work with ritual, who work with spell work, who work with just manifestation techniques, time and time again you get people say that it worked. Some psychologists would say you've set your mindset to achieving that goal, so you're constantly working yourself towards that. But that's a kind of magic
Hmm.
in itself.
Yeah, definitely.
So, you can't discount that. And we use quite a lot of tools as, if you practice, there are a lot of tools that we use to help manifest things. And we've talked from a paranormal perspective of, do things hold energy,
Yes.
haven't
We,
we?
we've discussed that.
And we've kind of like gone, well, maybe not so much. But we actually use, in regards to, work, spell work, or whatever you want to class it as, it feels very fluffy when you put it in these terms. But when you work in this way, we all have tools that you use.
Mm.
And, in lots of different ways, lots of different methods, lots of different, avenues down to this. But there are many, many tools that we use. I mean, how many people have an oracle deck or a tarot deck hanging around? Loads of people.
I don't.
Lucy does,
Yeah, but that's Lucy. I mean, I don't do them.
but that's her
It
pathway.
just,
You've got
it just.
runes. That's the
I,
same
I
kind
do
of
have
thing.
runes.
And
Yeah,
although those are divination, which is not something we're going to
I've
delve
got
into
pretty runes.
today, huh?
They're- I've got pretty runes.
You have got very pretty runes.
Yeah.
But we light a candle for various reasons, even
When the electric goes out, mainly.
mainly when the electric goes out. But no, there's mythology that surrounds that. You put a candle in the window to guide someone home.
Yep.
You light a candle when someone dies, so they have light to see their way. You shine
Mhm.
their light. Whether or not you buy into the fact that this is witchcraft, it is, except
Yeah.
it's everybody has rituals in their daily life that you do. But even down to how you clean your house, it's a form of ritual. We all have those. And whether or not you acknowledge them as a form of witchcraft or a form of witchcraft, they are rituals. We all
Mm.
have our own way of doing things in a specific way. It is that ritual that we bring into our life that makes things right for us. And we can extend that by using further tools to bring different manifestation techniques in for the things we want to achieve. But basis of everything is intention. Anyway, I'm not going to go off on any more of a tangent, because we're going to come back to a lot of these particular tools, should we say, because they all appeared in Harry Potter. quite frankly. Now, now, there is a slight difference between occult and alchemy. And alchemy was
Yes.
is a very big theme that runs through, particularly in the first, I think it's the first book, isn't it? The Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, just the concept of the Philosopher's Stone is that an alchemy tool.
Yeah. But alchemy is basically making something out of something. So something physical. So you want to turn lead into gold. Yeah.
Hmm.
Or alchemy is that process in a physical aspect.
Yeah, I mean the Philosopher's Stone was used, or it was supposed to be used, to turn any metal into gold, and it would produce the elixir of life, so it would make the drinker immortal.
Concept.
And
Would you want to be
yeah,
immortal?
that's the concept
But would
behind
you want
it.
to be immortal?
Um, yeah, I'd have a stab at it.
Get 300 years in and you go, I'm a bit fed up now.
Well, 300 years in, right, and people will still be buying my books because we'd all be famous.
Well, there's a
So I can
concept,
see
isn't
that.
it? Yeah, how many people have got famous after they died and would never know that they got
Exactly.
famous?
I mean, I'd keep myself to myself, and I wouldn't like draw facts to that I'm immortal. You know, I'd have a couple of warehouses dotted around with some like really and like good antiques. I'd save a few things and pug them away for a bit, and then when they're worth millions, I'll sell it on. That's how I'd live.
I don't think I'd like to be immortal.
Yeah, it'd be good to see where the human race goes.
It'd be all right if you was immortal in regards to you had plenty of money and health.
Yeah,
If you had health and wealth whilst being immortal, then you could do what you wanted to do, go where you wanted to go. You had the wealth to do that, but you also had the health to do that as well. Not a bit sucky if you got ill. You know what I
well,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, but then because you're immortal, you'll outlive the virus or whatever.
yeah, I meant more like, I don't know. But then I suppose anyway. I don't think I'd want to. See, my
We'll
brain's
discuss
gone
that
down.
one in a
I was going to
box, I
say, my
think.
brain has just gone down a complete different tangent there, isn't it? Anyway, so to cheat death is what medieval alchemists would actually dedicate their lives to. Now, in Harry, they talk about Nicholas Flamel, yeah, who
Okay.
is, the guy who made the Philosopher's Stone that made him immortal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it apparently was a real person.
He was, but let's just have a look at the legends that we got told about Flamel in the Potter book.
Yep.
Okay, first let's do that. Now, now he did do the Philosopher's Stone, and apparently he ended up going to India because can't live forever in the same place, right?
No, that's true. Yeah.
Because the Muggles might catch on. Now, Flamel's interest in alchemy apparently started with a book. He said that a stranger approached him one day with a rare manuscript. He recognised it. And then after that, he dreamed about an angel. And the angel actually appeared to him holding a book, saying, "One day you will see in it that which no other man will be able to see." Now, the book was written by a man called Abraham the Jew. It was in Greek and other languages that Flamel couldn't understand, including Hebrew. It had loads of symbols in it. And then he soon realised that this was alchemy. Then he spent the next 21 years trying to decipher it.
Hmm.
Okay? When he couldn't find the answers, he set off to Spain to find a Jewish scholar and came across Maestro Canchis, a learned Jewish man living in Lyon. Canchis recognised Abraham the Jew as one of the earliest masters of the Jewish mystical tradition of the Kabbalah and translated the pages. Flamel agreed to travel back to France to translate the rest, but fell ill on the journey and died before reaching him. Now, people believe Flamel used the Book of Abraham the Jew to create the Philosopher's Stone, and then that's how Flamel became rich.
Yep.
His wealth attracted the attention of Charles VI, who ordered an investigation into Flamel but found nothing of interest. Others say there's no indication that Flamel had involved alchemy at all. Now
Well,
that,
yeah, that's pretty much the true story.
mhm.
But there are quite a lot of obviously theorists going around that still claim that he's still alive today because he actually did invent the Philosopher's Stone and used it.
That's the folklore
Mm.
that surrounds Nicholas Flamel.
Yeah, and obviously that's what they used in the Harry Potter books.
And that was the inspiration for that particular
Yeah,
character, wasn't it? Now, we had to look at this. Was it true or not? Was, Nicholas Flamel a real and live and kicking character? And it's true, he was.
yeah,
He lived in the 14th century, in the middle of Paris.
yep,
He was described as a tall and brown-haired man, kind, smart and pious, and he worked as a copyist. Now, this was before the invention of printing, so copyists would copy texts and books that needed to be duplicated. So that was his job.
yeah, and they play and write it as opposed to yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And we see a lot of that kind of work. Now, even to this day, those books survive. Now,
mm.
he's a public writer. He's writing for illiterate people. He binds books. He sells books. So that part of the story is completely true. Nicholas Flamel worked with books, got books, did books, was book person on every level, right? So,
Yep,
and he did sell books in the centre of Paris. There's a licence given to him by the University of Paris where he made his Bachelor of Arts. However, there is no trace of alchemy at all linked to Nicholas Flamel. He never
no.
called himself by this. Nothing could allow anyone to say that he led any kind of experiment in a laboratory. He just seems to be more of a literary person.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he came across this book that was written by someone else about the Philosopher's Stone, and because he was the one that raised it, maybe that's how it got attributed to him.
Now, his popularity and his link, the folklore story, only sort of hit around the 16th and 17th century. So it's a good couple of 100 years after he passed. So he
Oh
had a
yeah,
really good reputation at the time. And he became rich. He did become very rich, but not because of that, the folklore side of it, but because his marriage to Pennell, who was she came from a very affluent family. And he was very good at speculation on real estate as well. So he made
yeah,
his money in other ways. It was not because he magically made a philosopher's stone or was involved in alchemy in any way, although some people would argue that speculation, making your money through speculation, is a form of alchemy in its own right.
I suppose making something into something else is alchemy, isn't it? So making land into money, technically, you could argue that.
You could. Yeah, definitely. It's a talent, one I haven't got.
Definitely. No. I suppose though you sell crystals, so you're turning your crystals into money. So that's you. You're an alchemist.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
You're
everybody.
welcome.
I'm now an alchemist. Beautiful. Now, there was a court case. King Charles the Sixth, was it Charles the Sixth? Did look into him, and there was a court case because they were worried about how he made his fortune and whether or not it was legal, because he was
Yeah.
only a copyist. But that was the only reason why he was looked into.
Mm,
Okay.
interesting.
But it is interesting. But there is that folklore that surrounds him. But the real life story is a little bit more normal, a little bit more prosaic. But it is interesting how folklore can, build up around a person.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's like a parchment in the British Library that they've got, and it's like a scroll, and they rolled it out, and it actually goes through how to make a philosopher's stone. So I'm not sure whether that was a Flamel creation or whether that was someone else. I can't remember.
I don't know. I don't know who that was
But
done
it's
by.
there. It's there for everyone to have a butcher's at.
But these medieval alchemists did used to, put it down, and it would be done in symbology rather than writing so much. So how to make it. We still haven't. But, it's great, though. It's a great folk story, isn't it?
It is. Definitely.
And we do know that there are, that this alchemy. What do you imagine an alchemist? You imagine them blowing themselves up in a lab, don't you? And being a little bit
Yeah,
bonkers.
yeah, someone that looks a bit like Leonardo da Vinci, but with a few more scars where they've things blown up in their face and things.
There is a famous painting by Joseph Wright of Derby. He painted it in the 18th century, and he painted these German chemists, alchemists who were trying to create gold, and they were boiling a flask of urine. But he discovered phosphorus out of that by boiling urine.
He did, yeah.
And there are many scrolls around with, spell books or, that survive nowadays. I mean, you've only got to look at the 13th century Liber Medicinalis, contains the first documented use of abracadabra.
It did, yeah, and that was where was it? An Aramaic term as well.
But we'll come to that when we hit our spells lesson.
Yeah, yeah. We'll talk about that when we get to the spells.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're doing alchemy or any form of potion work, you need herbs, right?
Definitely, you can't go and do potions and that without a bit of herbs.
You need herbs. Mm-hmm. You need, all sorts of things. Now, in Potter,
gillyweed,
all sorts of things. Now, in Harry Potter, there is Mr. Mulpepper's apothecary shop in Diagon Alley. Now, that sold the potion ingredients that you need, right? Now, I have to say I'm a bit of a sucker for... There's a shop in Glastonbury that is pretty much like this, and you can get loads of different herbs and spices and whatnot in there. It's an amazing shop.
Yeah.
I spent hours in there.
That really does not surprise me.
I have a whole unit full of herbs as well, where I do my own sort of work.
I know. I asked, because you gave me some patchouli.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what's this?
You asked for it.
Yeah, I know. But I thought you had some, like, joss sticks.
I actually had the real patchouli. He was like, oh, right, that's not quite what I wanted.
I was really hoping that the police didn't stop me on the way home, because it just looked like a bag of drugs.
Perfectly legal, everybody, all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
You do actually have to be a little bit careful, though. You have to know what you're doing with herbs and spices, because some of them are toxic, so you do have to be very careful when you're making up herbology potions or that kind of thing. So it's a craft. It is definitely a craft. It's an age-old craft. Natural healing is what they use for. I've got a massive album of cures and potions that you can make from natural resources, which if we ever get a zombie apocalypse, I'll take with me, because we're going to need it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks. Now, so... it's really interesting when you read Harry Potter, because a lot of what she talks about, some of it's real, some of it isn't, some of it's made up from her own mind. But I just want to give you a bit of a quote about herbology from the Order of the Phoenix. This came from: midnight came and went, and Harry was reading and rereading a passage of the uses of scurvy grass, lovage, and sneezewort, and not taking in a word of it. The plants are most efficacious in the inflaming of the brain, and therefore much used in the confusing and befuddlement drafts.
Yep.
And it's true, there are, potions and stuff for everything. But where did Mulpepper come from? He actually came from a real person called Nicholas Culpeper. That was the inspiration for it. And it's called The Complete Herbal by Nicholas Culpeper. I do have a copy.
Do you? I want to have a read of that.
It's interesting.
I was actually contemplating buying it.
It's still in print, yeah.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But the problem with that was they didn't like it very much, did they? Because when he wrote that book, he basically gave the power to the people to go out and forage for themselves and cure themselves, rather than paying physicians to do it.
Yeah,
and I love
because at the time, like a proper physician would have a book of his own,
Hmm.
which pretty much the same sort of thing. But that information was only shared with other physicians. So the common people would have to go to a doctor and pay extortionate amount of money for them to have a look at their book and go, yeah, that's what you've got. I'll give you this weed or whatever, and it will cure you. And that's what they didn't like because Culpeper wrote his book for the common people,
Hmm.
so they could actually look it up themselves and go out and pick all the herbs and vegetation that they needed.
Hmm. Yeah, in the hedgerows and in the meadows and
Yeah,
the
and it would
woods.
cost them a penny.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, bearing in mind it's expensive to go to a physician back in those days. You know, we didn't have the NHS back then.
No,
You know,
but you would have had St John ambulance then, although they didn't have the ambulances back then.
I
But
was going to
just St.
say, would they have been accessible? Not to every little
What
hamlet
year?
and village.
1100s? Yeah, I think so. And I think so about then. Yeah, it would have been about that point where they would have been in Malta. I think Hospitallers.
Wouldn't they be focused though on things like leper colonies and stuff like that, rather than the
They were
everyday common ailment?
no all over. They covered everybody.
Mm.
Yeah,
Maybe not quite as accessible to the outlying villages and stuff though.
maybe not. No, not everywhere. I would have thought, but yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway, you
Right now,
digress.
yeah, we did. Now, J.K. Rowling is quoted to say that she's actually got two copies of the Culpeper book, so it's a no-brainer that that was a huge inspiration for the herbology world in the Harry Potter. But in 1642, Culpeper was actually accused of witchcraft, and that is quite astonishing, really, isn't it? Because when you think, we've always
Yeah,
said that people that were accused of being witches were generally the healers of the community. So people that were using natural remedies to cure and help and possibly
yeah,
harm, you know, who knows, right? But they knew what was what and accused of witchcraft. But they think that was a political thing because of the anger towards the physicians had towards him because he was giving away their secrets at the end of the day. They were losing money.
that's not.
So let's
Yeah,
have a look at mandrakes because that of all the herbs in the Potter series, the mandrake root is one that um, is iconic, isn't it? You have to put earmuffs on because the screams of the mandrake when you're repotting them are said to kill you, but young ones would only be enough to make you faint, right?
yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I can understand. I mean, look, if you actually see a mandrake root, it does actually look like a little person, and I think that's well cool.
They are quite weird little roots. They are.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's a 16th century manuscript from Italy that depicts them, and it says
yeah,
that a startled dog runs away. In the picture, it shows you have to cover your ears and you tie the root or the plant and get the dog to run away so it pulls it up so it doesn't harm you.
yeah,
And that's where she got her inspiration for the mandrake root. But that she turned them into like little babies. I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
yeah. I thought that was really good.
Now, true life, right?
Yep.
Mandrakes, although they're not widely used today, I would say that, you know, but they are still used today, but they're not widely used. It does look in real life just like you would expect, like a little person pulled out. But obviously in the film they expanded that idea to actually being a little baby. But these are sort of a bit gnarly and a bit humanistic.
Yeah,
Humanistic, is that the right word?
yeah. Humanoid. Yeah,
Now, it is a member of the nightshade family and it's highly toxic. So you do have to be very careful with this particular plant as it is deadly. So again, that's where the mythology of this is deadly comes from.
Yeah.
right? It is actually, the sale of it is prohibited in most countries and very limited in its
Yeah,
usage
I think it's because of the actual effect it has on someone.
because
Because
it
it
is
does
so
have,
toxic, yeah.
it's a, yeah, hallucinogenic thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, it was used to cure nearly every ailment. It really is quite a versatile little herb, even though it is so toxic. So you do have to be very careful with it. But it would go from anything from constipation to convulsions to conception, all sorts of things that they would use mandrake for. They would also use it again for predicting the future, offering protection for soldiers going into battle, love potions, aphrodisiacs. It's got like multiple uses as the mandrake root, but you just don't really get it these days because of how toxic it is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know what the toxicity of it is, so we don't use it. But then, way back then, it'd be a cure for everything.
If you used it in the right way,
Yeah,
you just
yeah,
have to
absolutely. I
be.
mean, they had like a little bit of education when it comes to the regards of um, things like this,
Mm.
herbology, but it was still very much trial and error.
Hmm.
And that's
And you can understand that
just the
when
basis.
but if you think it's a trial and error scenario, you've only got to imagine that as you try to cure somebody, maybe using mandrake, they die. That's going to cause an upset with the person. Oh, she's a witch. You know what I mean? You can
Yeah,
understand where
but
this
if
thing
if the
comes from.
person if the person then dies, the physician could just equally turn around and say, "Well, she's cured."
That's a little dark humoured.
Yeah, they're not suffering anymore, are they? I suppose it depends on the outlook of the physician, really, doesn't it? You know. Uh,
So we took a look at some of the Potter potions that were actually in the films, and just had a look to see if there was anything that we could use in this day and age to actually, get the same effect.
yeah.
Right? So one of the potions was Draught of Peace. Now, in the book, it's powdered moonstone, which I sell, by the way, on Spirit and Soul Island if you're after any moonstone. Unicorn horn, don't have any of that. Porcupine quills.
Okay.
Now, that was supposed to relieve anxiety and agitation. Now, we have herbs that do that for you now, and there's lots of different ones, and we're only going to talk about one of each, otherwise I'd be here all day. And we don't want to give you a herbology lesson, but we're going to have a quick look. So, chamomile is
No,
good
if you
for
want a
that.
herbology lesson, if you want a herbology lesson, you can sign up to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry and send it by owl, and they'd get your request.
They certainly would.
Yep.
So, chamomile is a good one for that. It's very good for calming your nerves, promoting sleep. It's great
Hmm.
against general anxiety disorders. There was a study on this. People who took German chamomile capsules up to 5 times daily had a greater reduction in scores for tests that measure anxiety symptoms than those who were given a placebo.
Oh, awesome. But then, there are other things that do that as well as like lavender. Like
Yeah.
smell lavender is
Uh,
good to help you sleep.
oh yeah, there are different herbs out there, but we just picked on one.
Mm. Yeah, I use lavender.
A lot of people do, and again, that's
Yeah.
multiple use lavender. It's
Mm.
absolutely amazing. Although people say it's like an old lady smell, it isn't.
I don't care because I'm asleep.
It does help, and that's the reason why lavender was used so much in the olden days because it had
Mm.
so many good effects on you.
Yeah.
It was a really positive. I have loads of lavender. I use it a lot, extensively.
Mm.
That's the word I was searching for. Now, Mortentia was another potion that was used. Don't know what's in that one, but apparently it induces an intense artificial love. Rah!
That's a love potion.
A love potion. Now, love potions they're not anything we don't know, right? You still see people advertising love potions for sale. Even now, you could just do
Yeah.
love potion and you'll get 100 people selling you, probably cost you a small fortune for a love potion. And oh God, Andy Mercer wrote a book of Victorian potions and spells, didn't he? I can't remember the
He
bloody
did,
name of
yeah.
it now.
No, I can't, and I'm sure he'll slap us both for that.
He will, because I've got it on my bookshelf and I can't see it from here. I'm going to have to go and look at that in the break and come back to you on that. But so these are recorded. People used, love potions all over the place. There is one that you can
Mm.
make yourself with things that you've got in your cupboard, and it includes cinnamon, ginger, chili, garlic, and black pepper. Now, back in today, these were quite exotic, but nowadays we find them in the kitchen, don't we? We use them all the time for
Yeah,
cooking. I bet Lucy's got loads of this in her cupboard.
he probably has. Yeah.
Now, most love spells actually sort of focus on the sexual side of things and more, raising your vitality and your prowess, shall we say, in the bedroom. So not quite a love spell in the way that you would want, maybe for someone to fall madly in love with you, but most of them are to do with the physical effects on the body that will give you that artificial sense of love. Lust, I think we call it
Yeah.
these
I mean,
days.
I mean, isn't it oysters that are an aphrodisiac? I can't think of
Apparently.
anything worse.
No, I can't either.
That'd make me sick. Not, yeah, it wouldn't work with me.
No, if someone bought me a tray of oysters, I'd be like, nah, jog on, baby.
Yeah, that's it. Chocolate oranges. That's enough for me.
Snot in a shell. That's what I call oysters.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm quite happy with my chocolate oranges.
Yeah, bring me chocolate, but that chocolate is an aphrodisiac in its own right.
It is, yeah. And orange chocolate, you can't go wrong with that.
The darker the chocolate, the better, unfortunately, not just your Cadbury's or your Galaxy, and many other brands out
Yeah,
there.
the Galaxy's nice.
Galaxy's lovely,
Yeah.
that's my favourite. Anyway, we've digressed again. Beautification potion to make you look pretty. Well, these days, aloe vera is a great one for skin if you've got
Mm.
acne or something like that. So, absolutely brilliant. You have to be careful. You can't, I have psoriasis, as I've said before, and aloe vera is supposed to be amazing for that. And when you break one of the fronds of aloe, it comes out like a gooey gel, and that can be quite irritant. So that's why nowadays
Yeah.
they mix it down with water and other compounds, and that's what you find on the shelves and through many other channels these days. The wonders of aloe vera is amazing, but be careful in its raw form because it can be irritant.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll go with
But
that.
I do know quite a few people that need to utilise that potion, I think.
Does keep you hydrated and it does do wonders. I say a lot of people use aloe vera in many forms,
I just
produced.
remember that advert and it just goes, aloe vera.
Now, there was wolfsbane potion which relieved the effects of lycanthropy. We saw one of the professors use it when he was teaching dark arts. Professor Lupin used that.
Yes, well done.
I got that from the memory bank.
Yeah.
Now, that is actually based on a real life herb called monkshood. It has got its other name of wolfsbane. It's not, again, it can be quite poisonous, which is why it's called wolfsbane, because wolves won't touch it. And it actually contains a neurotoxin that can kill humans and other animals. So again, you have to be very careful when dealing with monkshood. So you should wear gloves and wash your hands and not take it. And it was actually made into a poison that was regularly used in hunting wolves, bears, and even whales.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of plants, flora and fauna out there that are poisonous. And believe it or not, poppies or poppy seeds in particular was something that a lot of soldiers would, during World War One, I think it was, they would just chew on, and it was like a pain relief because it's an opiate.
Yeah, they used to smoke it as
And
well.
if you have it in huge amounts as well, I think, isn't it cyanide you get from them?
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think it could be.
It's been a while since I
So,
did herbology.
yeah,
It's been a while.
yeah. So it's, something else to be aware of, definitely.
You do. There is a garden actually called the Poison Garden. That the only thing that grows in there, or they grow in there, is all the poisonous plants, and it's actually on my bucket list to go to.
Yeah, again, I can't remember where that is. That's not like Kew Gardens one, is it?
No, no, no. It's a castle. I can't remember myself off the top of my head, but I do know.
Yeah, I do know of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks amazing in there, and
Mm.
I say that's on my bucket list to go to. I think that would be amazing to go to have a look at.
Yeah.
Anyway, Skelly Grow.
But you could go in your level 3 PPE and like for
Yeah,
COVID.
yeah.
You'll be well sorted there for the day.
Definitely no touching in that garden.
No.
Skelly Grow. Now, the ingredients of that was a Chinese chomping cabbage, pufferfish, scarab beetle, lovely, and it causes lost bones to grow. Now, nettles are very good for this, for bone building in the natural world. Nettles.
Okay.
You add 1 teaspoon of dried nettles to a cup of boiling water, then strain and drink 3 times daily. You can have nettle soup and everything. Nettles are great as well.
Yeah.
Like a common, we no one likes nettles because they sting, but in the right way.
Mm.
I knew one of these naturalist kind of people who lived and foraged and lived off the land. He went off grid, lived off the land, and he would ask the plant, the nettles, to whether or not he could take some of the nettles for his work, and he never ever got stung because he asked.
Well, yeah, there is a knack to it. You can do it. That's something I learnt in Scouts years ago. Because we used to do nettle soup and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a certain way of picking the leaves off a stinging nettle that you won't get stung.
Well,
But it's something that you need to be shown, and just don't practice because it hurts a few times beforehand.
yeah, nettle stings are painful. Veritaserim.
Yeah.
Veritaserim. It's the truth-telling potion. Now, with this one, couldn't actually find a plant that would make you do this, although we do have artificial ways of people, you hear about in films and stuff, being Stranger Things I watched
Fruit
recently.
serum.
Yeah. And but with this one, it's like the power in words, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, I think it's down to belief systems, though, isn't it? That empowering words.
Yeah, but I do think words have power, regardless of how you use them. You've only got to look at some of the mentalists that are out there. They're not psychic
in that
or anything, but
respect,
they
yeah,
can
there is.
manipulate, can't they, through the power of word?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, they can have an influence, but I don't think they're as powerful as. So, like one of your examples in the research is that I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's just words, and it means nothing to some people, and they will still stand up in court, say that, and still lie through their teeth.
The majority of people would, on their conscience, the power of that on their conscience is enough to make them not lie. The majority. There's always going to be the minority, and you're never going to be
yeah,
able
I was
to.
going to say, but I think something like that hasn't got any in this day and age. I don't think that has got any power at all, because people can still resist that. But when it comes to maybe two people having an argument, sometimes the words chosen in the heat of the moment can really have a big effect on the other person.
Very much so.
So in that respect, I think words can be powerful.
Oh, I think words are incredibly powerful. That's why it's called spelling, because it's the spell you create with words.
Yeah.
But we could talk around that particular topic for ages, couldn't we? Of that
could.
power.
Well, we've got a 2-hour show out of it.
We've got a lot more to cover yet, love.
Yeah, well, there's always another week, isn't there?
The polyjuice potion, that was the one where you change your appearance to match the hair, to the bear. You match your appearance to somebody
Yeah,
else's. You clone them, basically. is on that one.
Yeah.
There is no potion that's going to make you look like somebody else. We can use makeup and wigs and mannerisms and all stuff like that to copy somebody. But nowadays we have got, unfortunately, in my perspective, scientists can clone.
Yeah, they can clone, and I mean, it's amazing what makeup artists can do for people as well.
Yeah.
So, in that respect, we can copy someone, but yeah, it's yeah, no, the animals and that have been cloned for years, haven't they? Wasn't it Dolly the sheep was the first one?
Yes, good old Dolly. I just
I don't know if
worry.
that was the first one in UK or whether that worldwide. I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't know, to be fair. I didn't want to go down too much into that scientific route of
Uh,
cloning because it is very complicated and the ethics of whether you should or shouldn't. Personally, my opinion is you shouldn't.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends on how quick they can cook the clone. I mean, yeah, they do.
Clone!
There is a very there is a very ethical, moral stance to it, and although I can understand if someone had a major issue with like one of their organs and they needed a transplant, they could cook one up quite easily for you as a spare, so you've got a spare body. But then when the clone is actually fully formed and is self-aware, you've actually got another person. So have they got the right to exist?
There's a
Also
film
comes
about
into
that,
play.
isn't there?
There is, and I can't for the life of me remember what it is though.
I can't remember what it is either. But there's your there's your ethics, isn't it, in cloning? But we won't go into cloning because again, we could go down and talk about.
I would say that's why there's a big issue around the stem cell research, but
Yeah.
again, that's another story.
Exactly, it becomes very difficult ethically, I think.
But that's for the scientists to talk about, not us.
Yeah, exactly,
It's their
right.
problem, not mine.
Exactly. Let's get back to herbs.
My head will
Felix
explode.
Felix Felicis was the luck potion. Temporary grants the recipient luck.
Yes, yeah.
Harry Potter.
Liquid luck.
Liquid luck. Now, think of clover. The folklore
Yeah.
surrounding clover with good luck. And it's often used in spells and rituals to do with youth and beauty as well. But, you find a clover, a four-leaf clover, and you're supposed to keep hold of it, and it's supposed to be very lucky, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, even as you said, like the power of words, right? I've never really worked out why actors, when they, rather than saying good luck when someone's about to do the show, they go, oh, break a leg. I've never worked that one out. How's that lucky?
It's not, but to wish somebody luck in the theatre, you don't need luck.
Okay.
I don't know. There is a mythology behind it, and can I, for the life of me, remember what it is? I can't. But there is a mythology around it to do, and it's only in the theatre that happens.
Yeah, that's it. It is. I have worked in that sort of environment occasionally. And yeah, it's just break a leg. It's like, well, why would you say that? It's not that lucky, is it, if he breaks a leg? Maybe it's something that the understudy says.
Yeah,
in the
maybe
hope
that's where
they
it came
get-
from.
In the hope that they break a leg so they can go on.
Yeah, I don't want to wish you luck because, I don't want to tempt
Yeah.
fate. Maybe it's about tempting fate.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Because they're a superstitious lot, the theatre, aren't they?
Yeah, because they can't even say Macbeth.
See, with the four-leaf clover, I would have said back in the olden days, like, if you found one, it would be an anomaly. Whereas nowadays, you can
Yeah,
buy
because
it.
they are very few and far between, but they do exist.
Yeah, but there's a whole plant now called the four-leaf clover plant.
Yeah,
So you can actually buy a four-leaf clover plant. So,
that's it. Yeah.
I think they
Breed them.
they bred the clovers or propagated the
that's
clovers.
it. And then you can have one every day of the week.
And you could have one every day of the week, yeah.
Indeed.
Now, if you're going to brew a potion, you need a cauldron, right?
You do, absolutely. Yeah, no, I've seen quite a few cauldrons.
I have a
Yeah.
cauldron.
That doesn't surprise me.
Have my my own cauldron, everybody, and I brew my potions in
Yeah.
my cauldron as well as use it for all sorts of other things. Now, what is the symbology or the reason we use a cauldron, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about it, to be fair, but it's just a pot for all your potions and to make it easier to mix, I would have thought. I don't know.
Well, back in the day, these were common. These were just a practical tool that you had in your house. A big bowl, you'd be able to hang it over the fire. The way it is, you'd be able to hang it over the fire. Now, bearing in mind, you're going back to before we had electricity, and you'd have like a
Yeah.
iron thing that you could swing over onto the fire and then pull it off the fire. And cauldrons are perfect for putting over and brewing up stews and all sorts of things like that, because when you're doing food back then, you were doing mass portions, not portion controlled,
Yeah.
because you'd cook a whole pig or whatever, not just a Sunday joint. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a waste. You've got to keep that fire fed all the time.
Especially when they're working in like big stately homes and things. Yeah.
That's why you get big ones.
Yeah.
But they are very symbolic. They are very significant to which, because of the representation, the style of a cauldron represents the womb, the goddess of the womb, and that process of transformation. So you're using all the elements together to actually create a transformation. So if you think you've got fire, you've got earth in the cauldron itself, the iron, then you've got water in the cauldron, and then you've got air, which is the steam coming off. So you've got that whole process of transformation going through all the elements, which is integral in spell work.
Yeah, I can understand that. It makes sense to me. Yeah.
And when you stir your althame. You would put your althame inside to give power to the potion that you were brewing. Althames are a dagger, basically, a double-sided dagger that you would use. You draw energy lines with it. You'd do severing of all sorts of different things that you would use your althame for. But when you put the althame into the potion, if you was brewing a spell, you're actually energizing that spell with your intention and putting that in, which is symbolic. It's very sexual, actually. It's the symbolic of the masculine energy entering into the womb and empowering that spark of creation within the cauldron.
Okay, I'll just make a quick note of that. Hang on. Don't go to Kerry's for dinner. Right.
See, nowadays I just use an oven, but back in Tut Day. Oh, that's funny. Oh, bless you. See, I know all this stuff. It's really funny to me that you go, what? How often do you see me cooking up a stew, though, in my cauldron? You don't, do you? You don't. I only use my particular cauldron for my magical work. And I should tell you, on a little side note, they used to have a little mini cauldron, and inside that cauldron they'd make it like a little house, like a little home, put like a little nest in there and stuff. And they would encourage a sprite or something, or a entity, an elemental type entity, to live in it, to give protection to the home. So
I'm going to check with your kids. If they are your kids, are they not just like familiars that you've turned into humans, little humans, to do your bidding?
Well, this is where Fae law comes in, because Faes used to, it's said that they would take over children and it would be a changeling. And if you had your 4-leaf clover, you could actually make a potion from the 4-leaf clover and rub it on your eyelid, and it helps you to see the Fae.
Okay. See, that's something that they believed in the medieval period.
Yeah, but all of this is medieval.
And I'm going to tell you my little gem of wisdom now.
Go on then.
Right? In the medieval period, if you looked over into the fields, sometimes they'd have like a little mound of trees in the middle, and they were called fairy forts.
Yeah.
And it was actually made illegal for you to go into a fairy fort because the fairies inside the fairy fort could capture you and send out your clone.
Yeah.
so they made it illegal.
Yeah, this was a big
Yeah,
fear. This was a big fear.
it was.
And
Yeah,
if you
and I
don't
learned that.
walk in the
Craig
woods in the middle of
Robinson.
the night, particularly a fairy
Yeah,
woods, because you might come across the wild hunt, and if you see the wild hunt, you're lost forever.
yeah, yeah.
Which goes back to our black shuck law a little bit.
Yeah. But again, that's another show.
It is a total fairy lore is a massive topic in its own right, but it's fascinating.
I
But
hope you're writing all these down because we can get like 50 shows out of this.
oh, honestly, this when we said at the beginning of the show, this is a rabbit hole and a half. It really is. I
Yeah,
have to bow to J.K. Rowling's use of all this folklore for somebody who, I mean, she said that she knew a bit, but not masses. Do you know what I mean? She
yeah.
really did pull
I think
forward.
it was. I think when she wrote The Philosopher's Stone, that was right back in 1990,
Mm.
and it took like 10 years to actually get it as big as it was.
Yeah,
So it wasn't like a quick writing of a book and hashed it together. She'd done so much research and so much work to get it all perfect.
yeah. She must have spent hours in the library looking up different folklores to fit with her story, or just
That's assuming she didn't use the time turner.
maybe she did.
Yeah,
Maybe she's a witch in her own right.
possibly. Might explain a lot.
Might do indeed. Now, on that note, we're actually going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to explore a little bit more in the world of what's true and what's not in the world of Harry Potter.
Hello, Harry Price here. If there's nothing me and my friends enjoy more here on the other side, it is to sit back and relax and listen to the Paranormal Concept Show, right here on the PAUK Radio Network. Broadcasting a plethora of interesting and informative content for all your paranormal needs. Find them across social media to keep up to date with forthcoming shows and all their other adventures. Hello, is there anybody there?
And welcome back to the Paranormal Concept Show, exclusive to the Paranormal UK Radio Network.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know I go more American every time I say that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
No.
Oh, in that case, I'll do the Australian. G'day.
Is that the only word you can say in Australian?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's about all I can do as well.
Oh, and for the Jamaican ones, beer can. That's it.
Well, you know my history of accents. In one sentence, I can go around the world in 80 days.
Yeah,
Right, so let's talk about
I'd-
witches,
12.
shall we?
Let's go on to the witches side of things.
Let's go on to witches themselves. Now, obviously, we're talking witches in general here. And this all goes back to... There is a book, another book in the British Library on witches and soothsayers called it's Latin. Delamis et Pathonesis Mulieribus. It says of witches and diviner women, basically. And that was
Yeah.
written by Ulrich Molitor in
It was.
1489.
Yep.
He's quite nice about us, really.
He's what?
Quite nice, really.
I've never met the geezer, so I wouldn't know.
Well, he didn't have that bad a view of witches. He just sort of laid it out as it was. But a lot of people couldn't read then, so they illustrated this book. But the illustrations...
Oh,
That's
yeah.
that book.
This is the book that the illustrator didn't actually read the book and
Correct.
depicted witches completely opposite of what Ulrich was talking about. I
Exactly.
thought that was hilarious.
I thought that was just about
But
right.
it was still in print.
Yeah.
It was still printed for like 100 years. Yeah.
Exactly. As I say, Ulrich had a very moderate point of view for the time, considering the time, 1489, and basically was saying that it was an illusion caused by the devil and not reality. So he was saying, like, there's not a lot here really, it's just an illusion. And he wrote the work to kind of sort out Archduke Sigismund of Austria. Now, he had actually read something from some Dominican inquisitors, James Sprenger and Heinrich Kramer, was worried about it and asked Molitor to have a look into this and see what he thought of it all, basically. Molitor was like, oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. But this illustrator kind of, you look at the illustrations, they're completely different from what he was saying. So no one actually really particularly read it. I mean, it was in Italian.
I think what
in Latin.
Because I actually see this in a documentary, this book, and Ulrich was saying that witches are not that bad. Mm-hmm. You know, they're quite into herbology and helping people, so they're not doing bad stuff, and they're not that powerful, as it turns out.
Yeah, exactly.
But the illustrator, he actually drew a couple of old haggard women around a cauldron, and he depicted that they were actually conjuring up the weather. And in that period, doing that is quite a bad thing to do, because they were so powerful that they could change the weather. And that's sort of what the depiction was. It was quite amusing, really. Yeah.
But that was to sort of like try and bring some sense to the topic off the back of this James Sprenger and Heinrich Kramer book. Now, they wrote the Malleus Maleficarum, which a lot of people know in regards to the 16th century witch craze. That's one of the books that caused the craze.
That one before.
Yeah, The Hammer of the Witches. It was written it was actually written in 1486, but from then people then kind of took that and went forward for it. With it. Now, that was totally condemning. It was basically the witch hunting Bible, the Malleus Maleficarum, and it's totally against anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's like worship of Satan and occult work and all those kind of practices, and basically said that the use of torture was an approved means of exposing and eradicating witchcraft. Now, in the 1600s, you've also got to remember that King James VI compiled a pendium on witchcraft called Demonology. So those two books together inflamed the populace, as it were, against witchcraft. It became then something that it came away from being the healer kind of side of things into something very negative and very twisted of what it actually was. But back when Ulrich was looking at it, he wanted to sort of go, well, give a balanced perspective. What do we think about this? And it, the book that Molitor wrote was quite mediocre. He was like, yeah, well, they're not that powerful. It's good. They're not good, but they're not bad. So it was different, but the imagery totally went against what he was saying. And because people weren't really reading Latin, or the populace weren't really reading it, they were just going on the imagery. And the imagery was backing up the Malleus Maleficarum. When you start looking at all of this together, you start, getting the idea of the propaganda against those kind of people working with herbology and stuff like that, and maybe a little bit quirky, or,
And it was even the earliest printed image of witches using a cauldron as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And it went worldwide. I mean, it went 49 countries printed that book.
Oh, yeah. And as I said earlier, it lasted 100 years in print. Mm-hmm. It'd be nice to get hold of a copy.
If you could read Latin. There's probably a translated book now out of all of these books now.
Probably. I would have thought so.
Most definitely. If there isn't, then that's a miss in the market, isn't it? But, unfortunately, it kind of fell on deaf ears. People ran with the other two books and the imagery of his book, and the rest, they say, is history on the 16th century.
I think that would be because of the disconnect between the writer and the illustrator.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because it's like, they obviously don't know what they're talking about because they can't connect the two together.
Yeah, or personal bias.
Yeah.
personal bias. I mean, you've got to remember, in the 16th century, in the witchcraft craze that went on, there was estimated that 30,000 people and 9 million women were condemned as witches.
Yeah,
So
I
there's
don't believe that.
between the figure of 30,000 and 9 million. I don't think it's as high as 9 million. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, it was probably 8.
Well, still 30,000 is still a heck of a lot, right?
Yeah.
All
definitely.
these witches consulting with the devil. Rah.
Yeah, and all they were doing were just popping pills. Not such pills, but herbology and stuff like that. Yeah.
Now, you remember at the start of the show we talked about...
Maybe this is also an offspring of what was his name? Cole Pepper. Because when he wrote his book, maybe it's like an offshoot of that. So these women were reading his work, going out doing their own potions to cure people, and the physicians turn around and say, "Well, that's witchcraft."
Let's say he was accused of it himself.
He was, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I don't know what the outcome of that
why.
was, to be fair.
Mm.
But yeah, they don't. Money and politics come into it quite a lot, and power, money, politics, and power. You know, you got to look at the rise of the church and the view against the good and bad, and we've talked about this before: God and Satan. You know, devil worship, Satan bad. Modern pagan, paganism back in the day, that was not good, not good. It's the old way of belief system being overtaken by a more powerful ally, the church, and then there's differentiate between the good and bad, and what is classed as good and bad. And then when you mix money, power and politics into that, what fits a narrative. And unfortunately, these things happened. And
absolutely, it's just the way it went.
And in a funny kind of way, it still goes on.
Of course it does.
In different ways these days, but it still happens. The witch hunt, we call it, don't we?
Yeah, yeah.
We saw this recently there's a documentary just been released on Netflix about the Elisa Lam situation, the lady that goes missing in the Cecil Hotel and that. And, internet sleuths find out that one particular guy was in the hotel and is a bit weird.
He was there like 6 months before, wasn't he? For like weekend.
Exactly, but they all lynched onto the fact that he was the murderer, it was him who did it, and he totally innocent, got hounded by people. That's a modern day witch hunt.
I mean, the sheer fact that he wasn't even in the same country didn't dissuade them from that.
No proof of his involvement, and yet totally witch hunts on the internet. So it still happens to this day.
Well, yeah, Witch Hunt Weekly. That's what I call it.
Yep, who's come to the banner today? But witches were a thing. So broomsticks, let's have a look at broomsticks, because in Harry Potter they were used to play Quidditch on, right?
And broomsticks are just hairy sticks.
They're bisons. They're called bisons.
Hairy sticks.
Well, they're the old style, like brush, isn't it? To clean your floors with, basically. And we do use them for magical reasons.
They're quite easy. They're quite easy to make as well.
Yeah.
I mean, because I used to be in Scouts years ago, and I actually remember that some of the things that we used to make our camping experience a lot easier. We'd have like washing up bowl holders, we'd have shoe racks, we'd even make up brooms as well.
Yeah.
To sweeping out the tent and stuff.
Exactly.
So yeah, we used to do all that sort of stuff, and I loved it. It was just everything to make it so much easier. I had a nice double sleeping bag which fit the whole floor of the tent. All I needed was posters on the wall, and I'd be happy.
And an internet connection.
Yeah.
So for survivalist tips, go to paulrook.com.
Absolutely. Any hacks, come to me. I'll show you.
Broomsticks do actually serve a magical purpose as well. Now, they help to clear away negative energy ahead of a ritual. So you walk, basically, when you're clearing your space before you do your ritual, and you cleanse everything. So it's getting it into a neutral state. You don't want to bring anything in, and you do this with yourself as much as you do the area you're working. And you would walk in a clockwise circle in the area that you're going to work, sweeping the broom backwards and forwards. And that is not just, it's a physical thing that you're doing, but it's symbolic as well. Now, if you get married in a pagan Wiccan ceremony, you jump over a broomstick because you're crossing a realm. You're crossing from a, well, you leave everything before, and the broom has swept it all clean, and then you go forward. Together is a clean slate, and that's the symbolic.
And that's in the hand fastening ritual, isn't it?
It is, very much so.
Yeah.
So you jump the broomstick, and that's what it is. And it's also about balancing those masculine energies and feminine energies. So you've got the masculine energy is the handle, and the feminine energy is the brush, the bristles.
and then the man picks up the broom and hands it to the woman and said, "There you go, that's your first present."
And then they get divorced.
Yeah.
Or the woman hits him with the bristle part.
Yeah.
That's usually where that one goes. Now, oh dear. Now, where did the mythology of broomsticks being able to fly come from? Now, this one is a one. Is all I can say on this one. This is where I start to cringe. In the Middle Ages, various herbs, we talked about hallucinogenic properties, and so you would make up a salve, perhaps maybe for women's troubles or something like that, and they would give you altered state of awareness, should we say? Now, to apply these, sometimes you would apply them to other areas of the body rather than taking them orally. So the broomstick handle comes in quite handy for that. You apply it to their genital area, shall we say, or their armpits. So you dip the handle into the ointment, straddle the broom, then dance or jump around in open fields, and it gives you a sensation of flying because of the drugs that are in the south that you've just taken. So that's how...
I'm so going to be petitioning St John Ambulance now to carry broomsticks with them.
Originally the salves, there's a famous one that says it was for women's troubles that you would apply the salve that way, but many other drugs are taken in that way as well for varying reasons, because the absorption... God, I can't even believe I'm talking about this. Absorption through that area or the anal area is more than sometimes by ingestion. I do not recommend it. I am not. I'm not condoning that. I'm not advising this at all in any way. There's massive disclaimer.
But the reasoning for that is because the bloodstream, the skin is very thin in those areas, and it's the same as in your mouth. You know why? That's because like the inside of your mouth is red, because the bloodstream is closer to the surface of the skin, so it hasn't got far to absorb in. That's why they thought that.
Yes.
There you go, a bit of medical information as well.
There you go. So so don't go doing that because it's not these days. This is
always listen to your doctor's advice and don't deviate from that.
Medieval practice is what we're doing, and that is not modern practice. Medieval practice.
In other words, don't listen to what Kerry just said, because that's rubbish now.
Now it's rubbish. Back then they used to do it, and this is where this mythology comes from, right? So, so cringe moment there. But it also is also used as, when we talk about cleansing your protective area, your ritual area, we also believe that your home is a reflection of your body and emotional state. So if your house is kept in order and is cleaned, then it's mental, we talk about this in mental mindset, just general mental mindset. Declutter, get rid of it all. Believe it or not, it does impact on your mental well-being. If you have too much dirt around you or you have too much clutter around you, one of the first things you should start doing is if you're feeling very heavy is actually get rid. And part of that process is actually just cleaning your house and getting rid of things that don't serve you anymore. And
Or
actually
just move house, move
just
to a
by
bigger
doing.
house.
When you move house, though, how many times when you're packing up your house, you think, oh, I don't need that, get rid, just get rid. So you move and you have that, again, it's that cleaning out, getting rid.
And then 6 months later, you go, oh, where's that thing that I need?
Where did I put that?
Yeah. Oh dear, I threw it away.
I got rid of it. Women are better at this than men. And this is the difference, a difference between masculine and feminine as well. Women are much better at letting go of things that they don't need, whereas men will always go, oh, I'll keep hold of that, it might come in handy. Box of wires, guys, box of screws that have been used, bits of wood that you're never going to use. That's why men have
men come in handy.
They don't, though. They never do.
Of course they do. When you want a spare battery for something, it's always in the man drawer.
Usually in dud one.
Every man has a man drawer. Even I've got one. And it's got all sorts in it.
And women go, it's full of tack, get rid of it,
Yeah.
clear it out. You can't even shut the drawer anymore.
But then when they need something and they need something done, and it's like, oh, that's in the man drawer, I'll go and get it for you. They're well chuffed.
But it is true. Women will clear out more than men, generally. Generally speaking, that is very generalisation.
That's because we got the foresight to know that we need it later, where women don't have that. That's what it is. And then when they need it, the man can go, well, I can provide that.
Men are fixers.
The men are the providers. There you go.
And women are homemakers. And we like a clean and tidy home.
Yeah, that's why I've got man drawer, because all the crap that I foresee that we're going to need, it all goes in my man drawer.
Wow. If you have an argument about this, anybody in your house, about the man drawer or any other reason, then just give your house a good sweep, a good clean. That helps to maintain energetic balance in the space. And also...
But leave the man drawer alone.
If you scatter salt...
Because the man knows where everything is in that drawer.
On the floor and then sweep it away with your broom, that's another really, really good way of cleansing your house of negative energy that might be lurking around. Yeah. Although I have to say, carpets don't really like salt that much, so that practice is more of an olden day practice as well.
No, just use shake and vac for the carpet.
Oh gosh, there's a song in my head.
Yeah.
And you can also hang your broom over your home's front window or door to prevent gossip, unwanted guests or curses, which is why you quite often find a besom balanced at the front door.
Oh,
that's
okay,
where you find that, yeah. So when you go to a hallway of a witch and she's got her besom balanced there, that's why.
Makes sense, yeah, I can understand that as an entrance to the home. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, there is one particular witch we're going to talk about. Now, this comes out from Olga Hunt. Now, if you go in Bowcastle in Cornwall, there's a witchcraft museum. Right, again, on my bucket list.
I've been there. It's so amazing.
So many different things.
Every time I've gone to Cornwall, I've always visited. So I've been like 4 or 5 times already. Yes. And it never ceases to amaze what's in there. Mm-hmm. And there's always something new to look at. It's not that they keep getting new stuff in. I mean, they do, but there's just so much in there. Mm-hmm. And you just know, every time you go in, you notice something that's different. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And a lot of, traditional witches, their stuff ends up in there, like when they pass and stuff. Olga Hunt being one of them. She was a witch that used to jump around on rocks with her trusty broom. And her broomstick is now in the museum.
Yeah, that's right. And I think they've got other pieces to do with her as well. And I do actually believe they claimed they had the body of Ursula Kemp as well, which is connected to the cage in St. Joseph.
All right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because apparently when they found the body, because I think wasn't the body...
Or the bones.
Buried, or they found some skeleton remains in the cage in St. Joseph. Which was basically a holding cell before Ursula Kemp was taken off. and I don't know why they thought that it was her bones, but apparently it turned out that it wasn't. Took the bones back to St Osyth Priory, and they laid the bones to rest there.
Oh, didn't know that.
Yeah, but it was thought at the time that it was Ursula Kemp, but I do remember reading something a few years back saying that they wasn't.
I've got a book on the case that I haven't read yet.
Maybe it's in there, yeah.
I'll have to have a read.
But no, the remains of whoever it is at St Osyth, literally across the road from the cage.
Oh, interesting. But the Witchcraft Museum...
Knowledge.
You are, aren't you, really?
I am.
In your own little way?
Yeah, I'm getting exhausted. Fairy thoughts, the cage, St Osyth.
See, we'll make a witch out of you yet, Paul.
And my mandrel.
Your mandrel. Anyway, the Witchcraft Museum in the Boscastle is definitely one to put on your list if you're going that way. It's definitely on my bucket list.
Definitely worth a go.
No witch worth her salt is without a wand. I have a wand, not in the traditional sense, but my own personal wand is actually just a massive crystal point. And that's my particular wand of choice. Generally, though, they are wood.
Yes.
They are generally made out of wood. But personally, I'm a crystal worker, so I work with crystal. So, it only came naturally that I was going to have a crystal wand, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Work with what you've got. I mean, crystals are a natural resource anyway. And again, so is wood. But the point of a wand was basically to focus the energy.
Exactly. Well done. Draw energy lines and focus your intent.
That's correct. Well done. 10 points to Gryffindor.
Didn't we have this discussion the other night, though, about which house we'd belong to?
Yeah, I'm going to dabble. I'm going to be in all of them.
You're going to be in all of them. I think I ended up being more of a Ravenclaw than anything else.
Yeah, so I think Gryffindor would be the one for me because, isn't it something about chivalry? And as I'm already in the Order of St. John, which is a chivalrous organisation, I'm already there.
Bravery, courage, that was all about Gryffindor, wasn't it?
That's it.
Anyway.
Yep, that's me.
I was Ravenclaw. Anyway, I would like to be, obviously, Gryffindor. Cause
Gryffindor's still getting those 10 points.
I think I'm a little bit of a Hermione Granger, but there you go. I think we all have a character that we want to be. Although I think I've got a bit of Bellatrix in me as well. But there we go. Hashtag evil queen. So anyway, J.K. Rowling, when she couldn't find a lot on wands. So she says she literally just made it up, which is where Ollivander comes from and all what the wands are made of and, all that sort of thing. And she said that when she was making that, she was actually just sat under a tree when she came up with that concept. But there are wand makers out there. Dusty Miller is one
Dusty
such
Miller
guy.
the 13th is one wand maker, quite famous, apparently, in his own little world.
Yeah.
And he claims that he works for the tree spirits, and when a tree spirit tells him where to go and where to find this particular wand, he will toddle off into the forest, and where this tree spirit told him, there would be a twig or something on the floor, and he will pick that up and he will take it back and he will shape it and smooth it, and he believes that channels the energy.
Yeah.
So it's actually chosen by the tree spirits. And he also says when people want to come and buy his wand, as Ollivander claimed in the Harry Potter series, that wands have feelings and they are alive because the wand chooses the wizard.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
I definitely think that's true. When you're choosing your magical practice tools, it definitely is. You could, for any of the tools that you use, it's very specific, and it is what you're drawn to. But we talk about that in terms of crystals all the time, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's almost like, although they say like the wand is focuses your energy or magical energy or whatever it is, um, it's almost like, when you say about putting your intention into the cosmos,
Yeah.
because it's almost like you cast a spell with these wands and nothing happens instantly,
No.
but in time it will happen.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're focusing the energy through the wand into the cosmos,
Yeah.
and then it comes back to you as you wanted it.
You direct it. So if you wanted to perform a spell, for
Yeah,
example, against somebody, which I know again is a whole ethical argument, um, towards somebody. So say, for example, you wanted to do a healing spell for somebody and you wanted to direct that energy towards them, then you would either do it in
yeah.
front of them or you would have a photograph or something. So you're directing that energy to the person it's required for.
Mm.
So
And I,
you would.
I actually, when I was looking into the ones, I actually found out, actually in Boscastle, believe it or not, there is a wand used for negative spells, and it's called a blast rod,
Uh-huh.
and it was literally a stick, but like when you get sticks and they've got like little branches sticking out,
Yeah.
that and they cut them down to like an inch long.
Hmm.
Um, so that's what the stick was, and it would blast the energy, not just directing it into one like a normal wand. It'd be all through those little stalks as well.
Yeah.
So it literally blasts everywhere,
Yeah.
and that was for negative curses.
Yeah. And you go on from wands into staffs. Yeah, think of
Yeah.
Gandalf. He would always have a big stick with him, wouldn't he? Thou
Well,
shalt
that's
not
I,
pass.
exactly, and I think that was pretty much the same sort of thing.
Mm.
But then it was like a walking aid. They'd use it to help them walk around places, and if someone jumped out on you, you could hit them with it.
It is basically a big wand. It's basically a staff, but it's more power and authority. So not everybody would have
Mm.
a staff. Only somebody of a specific magical level would have a staff. Whereas,
Yeah, see, I'd have a staff. I'd have my secretary, my PA, um, someone to clean up all the mess that I make. And one to stock up the man drawer.
Coven is what you're after.
Yeah, world domination, really, but yeah.
Start with the coven, darling. You might be better off.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Yeah,
Terrible.
yeah.
Terrible you are. What can I say? But yeah, so that's sort of like an extension
You're
of the
encouraging
wand.
it.
No, I'm not. And again, at this point of the show, I go, come back, Richard, all is forgiven.
He's too busy reading our book, which incidentally, if you go to the website, paranormalconcept.com, you can actually buy the books that we have.
Yes, you can. And read all our blogs as well.
Definitely read our blogs, they're awesome.
Anyway, let's look at charms and spells. These things that you do curse with your wand, or cast even, with your wand.
Yes.
Spells in particular. We've talked about potions, but spells have their own power in their own right. Now, in Harry Potter, it's very lovely. They were immediate. You would cast it, flick your wand in a specific way, and boom, reaction straight away. Now, all the
See, and
spells.
the reason they waved their wands was to clear a space in front of them. Very much like the sweeping.
Mm.
You're creating a magical space, and that's why they do the wand waving, because they're clearing a magical space. I just thought to throw that in there.
Okay. Very
carry on
good.
then.
10 team points for your house.
Gryffindor. Yeah.
But you have to say it in the right way. Can't just say
Yes.
it. You have to say it in the right way, which again is very prevalent. You have to have
And this is where Kerry falls down.
intent behind the word. You can't just say the word. You have to have intent behind the word, right? God, I'm going to get killed by a million Harry Potter fans at this point. Right. Acacio. This is the summoning charm. And it's
Accio.
Accio, sorry.
Accio.
And it's a direct translation from Latin, mean I summon. So that is a real word.
Yeah.
Class-
So he used that in the Tri-Wizard tournament in the Goblet of Fire when he said Accio Broom.
He did. He did.
He
Now,
did.
JK has
And
said...
he also he was looking for uh, he was looking for one of the Horcruxes in Bellatrix Lestrange's vault as well, and he used that spell then as well.
You have been brushing up on your Potter lore, haven't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, JK herself was actually trained in classical languages, French and classics, and this is where she gets a lot of her inspiration from for these. Avada Kedavra, or Cadavra, Avada Kedavra, the unforgivable curse, right? Are you there?
Yep. It is, yeah.
Now this is where it comes
You
from.
should have summoned me by saying Accio Paul, but I let you off.
Okay, sorry. Accio Paul. And twist and flick.
I'm sorry, I'm not here to take a call at the moment. If you'd like to give me a number, I'll get back to you later.
Oh my God. Avada to Kedavra is actually coming from the original of abracadabra, which is an ancient spell
correct.
in
Well done.
Aramaic, and means let the thing be destroyed. But originally it was used to cure illness, and the thing that was illness. So you want to destroy the thing that caused the illness.
It did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now there are lots of things about abracadabra when you go into a cult. One of the Roman spells for that was you would take off a letter and make basically a triangle. So you start with abracadabra, then the next line down you take off the A, and so on and so forth till it becomes like a triangle, and you would wear that around your neck as a warding.
Yeah, it was silks and stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But JK herself actually twisted it round and got Avada Kedavra out of it. Kedavra, whatever you say it. Right. Expelliarmus. Latin words
That's right.
of expello means I drive away and banish, and armour meaning weapons. Basically, the disarming spell that gets the victim's wand fly out of their reach, and that's where that word came from. It's very clever, actually, how she's done this. I loved all these when I was reading these. Lumos. To
Yeah,
illuminate.
that's yep.
Yeah, lumen,
Yep,
meaning
and that was
light
the-
or lamp.
That's it, and it was the light at the tip of the wand, wasn't it? Like a torch.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so handy.
It would, but we got torches, so we don't need a wand.
No, I know, but how handy would that be if you didn't, you know? But anyway,
Do you know what? I would actually prefer a deluminator.
one to take it off.
Yeah.
Nox, Latin for night. That's what you want.
Yes, that's it. No, I wanted a deluminator. Just open the thing and all the little lights all over the place just comes into the device. But that was an invention by Dumbledore anyway.
Gosh, you have been
Hang
reading
on.
about your law light, haven't you? Yeah, law light. What the? Oh God, I'm
All right.
losing the will to live now. Now, obliviate.
Obliviate. Yep.
It raises the memories of victims. Now, this is actually medieval Latin and comes from oblivisor, which means I forget.
Yep, and that was used in the Deathly Hallows.
It was.
Oh, wow.
It was. I have that on me all the time. And they reckon that aliens use obliviate.
Yeah.
That's why you forget, right?
Get what?
Exactly. What? But there's again the folklore surrounding that. It's like how many times you get up, go out the room, and you go,
Yeah.
"What did I leave the room for?" I mean, I know that's an
Well,
age
no,
thing.
see, I've sussed that out. That's God playing The Sims. Right, because I do it when I play The Sims, you see. When you cancel the action, he gets up, the little man goes across the front room, and then, because I've cancelled the action, he'll stop and go back to the sofa. And that's God doing the same.
Right. Okay. So we've then got Petrificus totalis. it's been a while since I've read these.
Yeah,
Petrificus totalis. Basically, it's a
that's
combination of three words. Greek, meaning rock, stone. Latin, facio, meaning make, do, cause to happen. And medieval Latin, totalis, meaning whole or entire. So she's used those three combinations to get the victim's body so he cannot move, but it does not affect your breathing or seeing.
petrifies them.
Okay, so that's one of them. And then you've got ridiculous. Now that's, we say ridiculous, don't we?
Ridiculous.
Oh, it's so ridiculous, right? It's laughable. And
It's pronounced ridiculous.
yeah, it's the Latin ridiculous, isn't it? That she's got that from. And basically, it is when you're trying to fight a boggart, so it's facing your worst fears, and you turn it into something ridiculous. But facing your fears is something very important too, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
We talk about that. Now, stupefy, again, can be traced to Latin, stupio, or stunned, numbed, or astonished. Theo, make, do, cause, or happen. So this will leave your victim unconscious. So this is where she gets these from. Very clever. You can't deny the clever origins that she brings into this. Excuse me, by the way. And then last but not least, Wingardium Leviosa. Leviosa.
It's Leviosa.
Leviosa. Now, this is basically it's an English word paired with arduous, ardum, meaning steep, high, in the context of trying to climb something. It's very arduous or very high, And the second part comes from levis, meaning light. So that's where that comes. So when we look, going back to the beginning of the show, we looked at tools, magical tools that people still use today. And you can see some of the influences she's used alongside the mythology and folklore and language even she's brought in to build the Harry Potter world, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there was also a story that, while I was researching some of this, a young African, what's the word? The guy that looks after the library.
Librarian?
It wasn't the word I'm thinking of, but
we'll go with that one.
he was actually studying some African magic in the ancient times, and he actually come up about a spell that would turn someone into something else. And the two spells that they mentioned in the research one was how to turn yourself into a lion. You'd put this spell onto a silk scarf thing and tie it around your neck, and that would change you into the lion. Where if you wanted it to be changed into a serpent, you would tie it around your wrist.
Oh, okay. So
again, I think that's a total coincidence with the whole Polyjuice thing, or even an animagus in Harry Potter. But it was just quite amazing that even the ancient Africans would have that sort of mythology. So Harry Potter does span so much.
It certainly does. I mean, we've only got to go back to the show we did on wolves and ravens, and the lycanthropy we looked into, and some of those were so they had a belt that was, it turned him into a wolf, that kind of thing. And we were like, yeah, all right, a belt. But what if it had been a charmed belt? The belief system in that alone is enough to make, we talk about the placebo effect quite a lot. You believe it happens, so it does happen. But does it? I mean, Guy Leon Playfair wrote a book called Could This Be Magic? I think it was called. Again, I'm going to have to look into that again. And that looks into whether or not magic is a thing, whether that power is there. And actually, when you read that, he doesn't come to any conclusion, but he does bring a lot of questions to the table, and that's on physical healing more than anything else.
I thought it was a title to a book, to a song.
A song. Yeah, it is, but say Guy Leon Playfair did write a book of that as well. It's incredibly interesting, about faith healing, which is basically what they call it. But when you look into that side of things, people are using their will to again, it's almost an alchemical kind of scenario where you're changing something through an energetic means.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating reading that. And so, is there something? I think it leads that down to that. I mean, go back to medieval times. You would go to like your cunning man or something like that and ask for a charm to be made, and you would have wardings put up around farmhouses and barns and stuff for protection. So their belief system that there is
yeah,
something.
I mean, they used to use cats, didn't they?
Yeah, but
They used
just
to
even
cats.
symbology,
Yeah.
even having symbols written on it. Sorry, excuse me. Even going back to when we looked at James the First, when they discovered that bedroom, and on the one of the posts was a load of symbology, protection symbologies against witches. You know, people would put pentagrams on their barn doors and scratch that into the woodwork. Rudimentary protection spell forms. You know, charms. We talked about Bowcastle Witchcraft and the Witchcraft Museum at Bowcastle. I think called it Witchcraft and Wizardry Museum. They had a love charm, which was if I remember rightly, isn't it, a piece of wood with heart-shaped.
Oh no, that was an oyster shell.
Oyster
It was
shell,
an
that's
oyster
right.
shell. Yeah. But yeah, no, they do things. People used to do things like that, and again, in some of the research that I looked at, there was some bones found with what's it called? It cracks in it, and it was like I can't remember, a Shang dynasty or something. I think it was from, and it's like 3,000 years old. These bones, and what they would do, they'd write on the bone the question, then they would burn into it, and then they would read the cracks,
That's more
and then write the
divination.
answers on the bone. And that is the only evidence that we have now in the British Library that actually tells us that the Shang dynasty actually existed.
Yeah, but that's a form of divination about seeing beyond the veil, isn't it? Which is a concept we're actually going to look into more next week. Is divination tools, because there's a plethora of those we can go into. And we've done a show before with Andy when we looked at the Dante show. We then in the second half talked about another book he'd written on runes, and you know the work he's done on those. And there's definitely something to it. And I think when you do spell work or you do charm work, in regards to more like herbology or manifestation techniques and stuff like that, when things happen, can you always put them down to coincidence?
Of course you can.
No, I don't believe you can.
You might not always be right, but you can always do it. Yeah.
See, I don't think that's right. I think I've done work before now, and the outcome has been so unexpected that it puts it beyond coincidence. That you have to sort of, I don't know, just the way it happens. Sometimes you think it's beyond coincidence or synchronicity. It's beyond that.
Yeah.
It's abnormal in the way it happened. And I think that's when you look at various things that happen when you've done that kind of work, that's sort of your verification. In the same way as a medium, you go to a medium for a reading, they come out with a piece of information that they could not possibly know. That's your validation, that's your confirmation, isn't it? That person's got that connection. Why are we then so dismissive for something like you put an intention out there and it happens? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think you should be so dismissive of it. But I do think it needs to be done in the right way. You have to be... in Harry, it does kind of like fluffy it up a little, but you have got to consider intention and your preparation work that needs to be done before. There's a lot...
Absolutely. But then that's why they're in school learning it. But yeah, I mean, they do like the tea leaf divination, don't they?
But again, that's next week's show.
Yeah. I'll shut up then, shall I?
Well, we don't want to go too much into it. We don't want to spoil it. We don't want to spoil too much for next week's show. We're sort of like breaking it down a bit because we haven't even looked at magical beasts either.
No.
Which are a huge
part. But that's
part.
another movie.
That's a huge part of the Potter world.
Yeah, no, that's just another movie all in its own. Yeah, so we could do this quite a while. So Harry Potter for the rest of the year.
I wouldn't go that far, but maybe look at things like that.
So,
But when you look at cleansing your space, in that mental mindset of clearing, you have to clear your
yeah.
mental mind space, your physical energy, like clean yourself, clean the area you're working with, the prep work before spell work, or any, even down to when you pick your herbs and your herb preparation. You know, proper magical work is not just a 5-minute fix. It is intent and purpose and energy signature to get the right outcome that you want.
But whatever you do, don't go out there and pick up herbs randomly.
No, not unless you know what you're doing.
No, definitely not.
And certainly don't ingest them in the way we discussed on the show.
No, definitely not.
On that note, we've come to the end of the show.
That went really quick.
It does go quick, doesn't it? So join us next week. We're going to go into the divination tools. Lots and lots of divination tools out there. We're going to take a little look at that. And until then, you can catch up with all of our past shows if you go over to paranormalconcept.com. Say goodbye, babes.
Goodbye, babes.